It's Wednesday. That means it's hump day. There's some teams in the National Football League that got to get over the hump. Tampa's one of them. We're going to talk about that in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on, good people? I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. Yeah, that works. That works. We just have to edit it out. What's up, good people? I'm Tony Wiggins. What's up? God damn. That's what I get for trying to be all squarehead professional. All right, look. What's up, good people? I'm Tony Wiggins, the Locked On NFL podcast, the barbershop. We are here, as we always are, 5 days a week to give you the biggest stories from around the National Football League. It is Wednesday, so that means David Harrison of Locked On Commanders joins me. We got some things to discuss, some serious things to discuss here on Hump Day. First, I have to let you know that wherever you get your podcast, don't fret, man. We'll be right there. Whether you watch or listen, tune in so you don't miss an episode of The Big Show. Now, today's show is sponsored by Monarch Money. You need to take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us here every single day. We appreciate that. Here's what David and I have for you today. The Packers have to stay healthy. That's where we're going to end up. Right smack in the middle, we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions and how they must get past how the last two seasons have ended. That's hard. We're going to start, though, talking about a team that David is very familiar with in Tampa. I think Tampa has to take a step. They got to take their step. I misstepped and thought Todd Bowles actually had a Super Bowl win until Monday. Julian Cancel said, no, he doesn't. He wasn't the head coach. We're going to see what they need to do to get over the hump. And we're going to be joined right now by David Harrison. David, a lot of these teams are over the hump. Don't think I'm going to let you off the hook. We're going to talk about the Commanders, the team that you cover right at the end. But what about Tampa, man? On paper, my man Pete Prisco was at Jaguars practice, and he told me they look good, man.
Yeah. I mean, the Buccaneers roster is a good one, and they've done a lot of good things. I know a lot of people were surprised when the team drafted Mecca Igbukah out of Ohio State, the wide receiver in the first round. But it basically just kind of shows you what they plan on doing to you. They're going to shoot you to death. They're going to drop you with bullets. They got Mike Evans. They got Chris Godwin. They got Igbukah. They got Jalen McMillan. Don't sleep on Trey Palmer. Sterling Shepard is a sneaky vet when he's a role player. Tez Johnson is looking good. Like, they've got a lot of weapons for Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield loves to try to find his weapons. He loves to expand and extend plays. Honestly, bro, the hump that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to get over is name Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles is the hump that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got to get over. Like, this isn't a post-Tom Brady thing. Like, the first year, okay, you know, maybe even the second year, okay, it's post-Tom Brady, that's over. Like, the Tom Brady, you know, whatever you want to call it, Mr. Fog is not in Tampa anymore. Like, the Tom Brady stuff needs to be over. It's the Todd Bowles thing, man. Look, this last season, 2024, I made a lot of Buccaneers people very unhappy because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went out and they beat rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels in his first NFL start. Okay, congrats. Then they beat the Detroit Lions, which everybody said was the best team in the NFC. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went out. They beat the Detroit Lions. Not only did they do that, they beat them in Detroit. They beat them in their own house. And everybody said, all the Bucs fans, all the Bucs media, all right, this is a team. This is a team that's going to roll. Look at the schedule. They got the Broncos. They got the Falcons, the Saints, the Falcons again. They could be 8-2 by the break. They could be this and then. And I told everybody, they're going to lose to the Broncos. They're going to lose to the Broncos. Bo Nix. I said, yo, Sean Payton is over there.
Yeah, he ain't got
this
time
is
for
what
that.
A Todd Bowles team does. They go out there and they put a whooping on somebody. I mean, they only won by 4 points, right? But they go beat one of the best teams in the NFC, maybe the best team in the NFC. I think the Eagles would have something to say about that.
I think they beat them too,
And
didn't
then they lay an
Philly?
egg.
Yeah.
Then, they come back from that loss to the Broncos, 26-7, Wig. They lose to the Broncos. And then they put a 33-16 whooping on the Philadelphia Eagles. Guess how they followed that up? 36-30 loss to the Atlanta Falcons. You know what I mean? Like, when a Todd Bowles team has all the hype in the world, they lay an egg. When they have all the doubt in the world, they go out there and win. I picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers late in the season to beat the Los Angeles Chargers. You know why? Because everybody said they're going all the way to Los Angeles. West Coast trip from Tampa. That's a problem. This team is going to lose this game. The Chargers are Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, all that. I said, you know what? Y'all are talking so much. The Buccaneers are going to beat the Chargers. The Buccaneers went out, put a 40-17 whooping on the Chargers. What did every Bucs fan, what did every Bucs media member do? Oh, next week they got the Cowboys. Cowboys are banged up. The Cowboys aren't what they used to be. They're gonna handle that team. I said, yo, they're gonna lose to the Cowboys this week. The Dallas Cowboys. The wild card round.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers are gonna beat the Washington Commanders. They beat them once already. I kept trying to tell people, y'all, they beat them in early September. Like, do y'all understand how different that Washington Commanders team is than the one you saw? Do you understand how different this quarterback is than the one you saw that first time around? This is not the same game. But everybody kept telling me, no, man, the Buccaneers are going to win. Buccaneers by 10, Buccaneers by this, Buccaneers by that. And I know it was a late drive, last-minute drive, doink field goal to win that game for the Washington Commanders. But listen, this is a 4.5-minute game-ending possession that the Washington Commanders shoved down Todd Bowles' defense to finish that game. That was by design. This was not a 4.5-minute lucked into. No, for 4.5 minutes, the Commanders' offense said, hey, Todd Bowles' defense, here's what you're going to do. You're going to sit down, and you're going to watch us kick this field goal. That's what's about to happen right now. And that's exactly what they did, because that is what Todd Bowles teams do.
Now
Todd
watch
Bowles,
this.
great man, great coach. They have to get over the Todd Bowles hump.
Now watch this. The way you get over it is you take it away from the defense. And that falls into something that you said earlier. They're going to try to shoot you to death. Listen to James Yarko talk about the man that's going to do the pulling of the trigger.
Well, I do want to start with Baker Mayfield. Obviously, the Bucs went above and beyond to make sure that he has everything that he needs to be successful. He's got new weapons. He's got an offensive coordinator that he has a great relationship with. And of course, Baker spoke after practice on Tuesday about the offense. And he said, quote, if you look at the foundation that we tried to instill last year, we obviously evolved throughout the year and the season. So it's nice for guys to not have to learn it from scratch. There's obviously a few tweaks and things, motions that Grizz wants to get done, which is great. If you're not trying to get better, you're not going to survive. We're doing that right now. For me, it's continuing to over-communicate at the line of scrimmage. That was a big step last year. The responsibility at the line of scrimmage.
See, it's all about Baker Mayfield. That's why they have three real good receivers, and then they went and got another one. Also, that might be saying that Mike Evans ain't got that much longer left, but it's all about Baker Mayfield, man. And then if the defense can just supplement what the offense does, kind of like they did when Tom Brady was there, they can probably win it again.
Yep. The difference is, who was the head coach when Tom Brady was there?
Bruce Arians.
Mine did Bruce Arians. And listen, what Todd Bowles needs to do is look around the league. There are some defensive coaches out here winning with really good offense. I cover one of them. Dan Quinn. Guess what? Dan Quinn, everybody wants to talk about, well, Dan Quinn's run defense was bottom of the league. Okay, Dan Quinn's passing offense, scoring offense was top 5, which is why they went to the NFC Championship game. What's your point? Now, what's your point is if they want to win a Super Bowl, they got to get that run defense fixed. I'll give you that. But you're trying to down talk a 12-win team in the regular season, won 2 games on the road in the postseason, and went to the NFC Championship game by saying, well, the run defense this. Well, the run defense helped get them to the NFC Championship game. Now, I'm not saying that's where you should settle and all these things, but what you have is a defensive-minded head coach in Dan Quinn who understands, I need to go let my offense score. I need to go let Cliff Kingsbury dial up whatever shot he wants to dial up, pass however many times he wants to pass, let Jaden Daniels go out there and be Jaden Daniels and not try to bottle this thing up and survive on my defense. Bucs fans and Bucs media will tell you that's one of the most frustrating things about Todd Bowles is you will see moments in games where it's like, oh, we got a 3-point game, 7 minutes left in the third quarter. Let's just grind out the clock. Let's just try to grind out the clock. Like, bro, that is not your team. So hopefully this is a sign. But here's the thing. Todd Bowles doesn't pick the players. Jason Light picks the players. And Jason Light might be sitting there saying, Todd, we need to let Baker cook. Let Baker bake, right? Let him bake. Give him some more weapons. Turn the heat up on offense. But Todd Bowles has been doing this a long time, and he has yet to turn his team over into an offensive-minded team. I hope for the Bucs' sake that he does it this year, but I will believe it when I see it.
All right, we're going to hang around in the NFC North. We're going to go to Detroit and talk about them first because they had their season end on a bad note 2 years in a row, and that could really have a bad taste, leave a bad taste in your mouth. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out and shopping and entertaining, it's easy to lose track, especially when there's more than one person on that account. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending in one place. So you stop managing your money and start building wealth with surprising insights, all in one convenience and easy collaboration. Monarch Money is the place for you. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, we're moving and grooving, moving along here on Locked On NFL, where it is your team every day. I'm going to swing up real quick up in Detroit because Detroit seems like they're getting everybody back. And that's cool, but they ain't getting everybody back because Frank Ragnow left, right? Can they find a good replacement on that line, and can things be exactly the way that they left them so they can fix what they left? 2 years in a row, almost getting there, not making it. Listen to Locked On Lions.
I think it's more than just Frank Ragnow. It's Kevin Zeitler as well. You're losing 40% of an offensive line. That was your identity. I mean, you grind people down. Yes, Ben Johnson and trick plays and Jared stretching the field, all that is good, but this is a team built on toughness and power and beating you up. And he's got big shoes to fill. You could put Glasgow back there, but he hasn't really played center in a while. Tate Ratledge, I know, was taking snaps immediately thereafter, and he took some snaps during the Senior Bowl week as well, but he's a guard.
All right, big time. Relying on a rookie, man. That ain't what we're used to. But Detroit, their team has been young for a few years, and they've been making this climb and this ascension. Do you think they can still keep it up, David?
I think they can. But I think what they got to find is they got to find their left hook, right? So if you're a boxing fan out there, especially from the 90s and all that stuff, like I was, the Detroit Lions, here's my analogy for the Detroit Lions. Someone go on AI and make this image. The Detroit Lions are Mike Tyson without the left hook.
Come on.
Mike Tyson without the left hook still looks very scary. He sounds very scary, very intimidating personality. But when it comes time to win the belt, he doesn't have what it takes to get the knockout punch. That is the Detroit Lions. They've got all the bravado in the world. Dan Campbell has all the personality in the world. But the Detroit Lions roster, when it comes time to go out there in the championship fight and deliver the left hook to drop the contender, they don't have it. They don't have it. The roster, honestly, it's a little bit fake. It doesn't really live up to the spirit of the coach. Now, the good news, Wig, is that coaches matter. And coaching staffs can elevate the play of their team. And you see these players, they try to emulate, they try to embrace the spirit of Dan Campbell and what he stands for and what this coaching staff stands for. The good news is Kelvin Shepard's taking over defensive coordinator because not only do they not have Frank Ragnow, they don't have Aaron Glenn, and they don't have Ben Johnson. And that is not a small thing. But they have Kelvin Shepard, who grew up in the Lions staff. So in theory, Dan Campbell should know that Kelvin Shepard is a Dan Campbell guy. So you should still have that coaching bravado. And then you've got John Morton, who spent some time with the Lions, so he has that background. He spent time on the offensive staff with Sean Payton, who, if you've ever watched a Sean Payton coach team, that man is about as aggressive as they come on offense. That man will do everything in his power to embarrass you. So you know John Morton. John Morton also worked on the Raiders staff under John Gruden. John Gruden is very, very similar. So you got an offensive coordinator that you know is going to go out there and be a D word, if you know what I'm saying. So you've got a coaching staff that looks on paper like they're going to be able to maintain this personality that the Detroit Lions have adopted. And I think that personality that the Lions have adopted through their staff is really what's helped elevate their roster to the point it has. But Wig, at the end of the day, players have to deliver the knockout punch. If the players can't deliver the knockout punch, it doesn't matter. And right now, and look, I've watched the Detroit Lions in person, covered games in Ford Field 2 years running. One year they won the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They did. The next year, they lost to the Washington Commanders. Both teams I watched, when they went to San Francisco, bro, I said, listen, I don't think this Lions team has what it takes to beat this 49ers team. And I know that on paper, they should have probably won, and Dan Campbell made some decisions, whatever. Both times, they swung for the mountain, and they missed.
Yeah,
so
you use the boxing analogy. Let me tell you what I'm gonna give you my little take on it, and it's your idea because you did it, but you know I'm a boxing fan too.
mm-hmm.
I heard Kelly Pavlik, former light heavyweight champion, he said something one time to a young up and coming fighter. He says everything you swing has bad intentions. He says sometimes you just got to touch them. Sometimes you got to touch them, and you got to set everything up. Everything can't be a knockout. They gotta. Because sometimes when you knock people out because you hit them and they thought they knew what your power was. So if you're touching them, then they get careless. That's when you can knock them out. You ain't always got to sit it, because you know what? You sit there swinging haymakers. Guess who gets tired? Mm-hmm. You know, getting hit ain't the only way you get tired in a fight. Swinging and missing, you get tired.
Swinging's how you get tired, yeah.
Swinging's how you get tired, baby. So Detroit's got to learn how to focus on their target a little bit.
Football doesn't go to the scorecard. Football doesn't go to the judges.
No.
Football is a knockout or be knocked out game.
That's right. That's right. All scoreboard. And now we a lot of talk about the Bears and whether Caleb wanted to go there and all of this old stuff. My man Lauren Cox is going to talk about how the Bears are actually going to, or how they're even approaching getting to that next level. The Bears got a lot of stuff to overcome, and we'll unpack some of it in just a second. But listen to Lauren Cox.
Within reach, I think the Bears are going to be in that playoff conversation right down to week 18 against the Detroit Lions. Like, this is going to be a team that's in the hunt, in the mix, and I'm not ready to like definitively go all in and say they are a playoff team this year, but I think they're probably a 9-win team, maybe a 10-win team. It's right on that edge. And if the tiebreakers go the way, like that's why this is so important to me, right? Because the Bears are a team that's going to need a little luck. They're going to need a little help. The Chiefs don't need as much luck or help because of how good Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are. Like, the really, really good proven teams need less luck and less help. But if the Bears are one of those teams that's right on the edge, right on the fringe, where you're a win away from making it or a loss away from losing it, then every injury matters that much more. Every little decision matters that much more because there's less margin for error.
Lauren Cox does a real good job with the Bears, and he was very careful with his words. But I do believe that we thought Eberflus was so bad of a coach that a team that did look competent in some games, you can go from 5, 6, 7 wins. That next little going from there to 9 or 10 wins ain't as hard. I think going from 10 to 12 wins is very, very difficult. I think the Bears, they've built their roster pretty good. They had a good offseason, and Ben Johnson has to now go prove that he can be a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it. Ben Johnson has to prove he's got to go be a head coach. So you want to talk about the hump that the Chicago Bears got to get over? It's Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's the hump that they got to get over. Now, the question is, how big of a hump is that? That could be no hump at all. It could be a flat road because Ben Johnson can come in there and be the king lion. And I know they're the Bears, but you get what I'm saying because they come from Detroit. Come in there and lead those Bears like lions. And guess what? Your Bears will go out there and fight like lions. And now you're the scariest beast in the NFC North. Ben Johnson could also be a lamb. Right? Like, this kind of reminds me of Bill Belichick. Like, so many people hired Bill Belichick coaches because they're like, we want what Bill Belichick does in New England. Charlie Weiss, come on down. Charlie Weiss is not Bill Belichick.
No way.
Romeo Crennel is not Bill Belichick. Josh McDaniel is not Bill Belichick.
Matt Pencil.
Yeah. I mean, go down the list. They're not Bill Belichick. Ben Johnson, is he Dan Campbell? I don't know. I don't believe he's Dan Campbell. Now, the question is, if he's not Dan Campbell, is he a brand of head coach that can be just as successful anyway? Because then it doesn't really matter, right? But Chicago Bears and the media, they're all basically saying, you're going to take that Detroit Lions football and you're going to install it in Chicago. That's not really how this works all the time. So that's step number one that they got to figure out. But I'll tell you what, Wig, every other team in the NFC North better hope the Chicago Bears don't win 10 or 11 games this year. If anything, just to not hear my annoying self sit here and tell you week after week how right I was about the NFC North. Because if the Chicago Bears win 9 or 10 games or 11 or 12 games, heaven help them, that means the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions are all going to drop in their win totals. And guess what I'm going to do all year long? I'm going to talk about how in 2024, I was telling y'all, they played the AFC South and the NFC West, and they're not as good as their record said they were last year, and that's going to only prove it. So for petty reasons, the Vikings, Packers, and Lions, especially Peter Bukowski, locked on Packers, because you know I'm going to get under his skin, better hope that the Chicago Bears don't come out here and rip off double-digit wins at the expense of the rest of the NFC North.
Speaking of the rest of the NFC North, and especially speaking of Mr. Peter Bukowski, we're going to talk about the Packers in a minute. Boy, you always do this. It's right there on the screen that I'm going to talk about the Packers, but oh no, he ain't waiting for me to do it. He shot that jab at Peter. I hope Peter's listening. I'm sure he probably is. We're going to talk about the Packers, and Jordan Love happened to stay upright, and then I'm going to let Dave go in his diatribe about the Commanders, who actually had a really, really good year last year. Third final segment coming up here on Locked On NFL. Third segment here, we are talking about hump day, teams getting over the hump. I now, ladies and gentlemen, present to you Locked On Packers host, Peter Bukowski. He's talking about Jordan Love. Here it is.
It's not regression you should be afraid of with Jordan Love. It's injury. But when I went back and rewatched some of the quarterbacks from this last season, dug into some of the numbers, it stuck out to me. Okay, Joe Burrow, he gets hurt. Justin Herbert, he's playing hurt. Jalen Hurts, he's playing hurt. Dak Prescott last year, playing hurt. Josh Allen for part of this year, playing hurt. Matthew Stafford last year, playing hurt. And not every quarterback can play hurt. Now, Jordan Love last year, there were some times when he was a little banged up, but he consistently played on time and in rhythm. And if he moved, it was a little move in the pocket here, a subtle move. It was a pump. It was one step. It was a slide. The second half, he was unbelievable manipulating the pocket, did not break it to scramble hardly at all. Was always looking to run, but didn't really have to because he was seeing the game so cleanly. If you want to be optimistic, that's what you point to, because not every quarterback can be productive when they are hurt. But that's one of the big questions for Jordan Love now.
Jordan Love is one of those quarterbacks. Sometimes I see him and I'm like, damn, he's good. And then sometimes I see him and I'm like, why did he do that? I think that variance between damn he's good and damn what is he doing has to shrink a little bit in order for me to be a believer in the Green Bay Packers. But they also have a very, very good roster, in my opinion.
They do. They have a very good roster on paper. The question is, and I think this is kind of what Peter's getting at, is this the year that Jordan Love turns into a force multiplier? Right now, he's not a force multiplier. He's another dude on that roster. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's a good player on that roster, but he is not elevating that team. And as a franchise quarterback, that's what you have to do, especially once you've been paid. Because once you've been paid, they can't pay as many other people around you. So you've got to be able to elevate those around you. I hate that the Cincinnati Bengals went out there and gave all that money to 2 wide receivers. If Joe Burrow truly is the best quarterback in the NFL, which I think pure quarterback play he is, you don't need to pay both those receivers. I don't care how much fun they have on the weekends watching movies together. But look, same thing. I'm gonna pat myself a little bit on the back because Peter likes to pat himself on the back as well. I told y'all last year that the Packers were the third best team in the NFC North, and they proved me right. And I told you last year that the Packers were the third best team in the NFC North because of their quarterback, because their quarterback was not a force multiplier. He didn't become one last year. I don't know if Jordan Love is ever going to be one. The question then comes into, and this is all the way down the road, team building, roster management, all this stuff, is Jordan Love then willing to take money as a non-force multiplier so that you can go buy better forces to put around him so he doesn't have to elevate the rest of his team? That's another question for another day. But that's, if you want to talk about humps and what teams have to get over, that's the hump they got to get over. Jordan's either got to become that difference maker or they've got to find, I've always said, killer quarterback or a killer defense. Right now, the Packers don't have either. They got a good defense at times, at least. They got a good quarterback at times, at least. They have no killers on that roster. I see a whole lot of good dudes, no great dudes. They got to go find a killer somewhere, or else, I don't know.
Well, they hope they got it in Mr. Golden. Yeah, they hope
Chicago Bears going to jump him.
They hope they got it in Mr. Golden out of Texas, who I call Baby Greg
Jennings. Talked about
Jennings.
that last week.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But first of all, it would be patently wrong for me to have you ask Peter a question without him being here, and then me not ask you a question in on Peter's behalf. What makes you think y'all so good? And by the way, here's something that Peter would say. Peter would go, I wouldn't call him fat, but I would say that Deebo Samuel looked a little chunky. Is he chunky?
Deebo Samuel does not look chunky. Deebo Samuel is fine. Listen to me. Y'all need to stop listening to people talk about Deebo Samuel, watching a clip on social media from a person who was there when they ain't there. We got people 3 time zones away evaluating a clip of Deebo Samuel jogging in early warm-up portions of practice on a video from a media member who's on ground, who, by the way, was sending out that video as a positive. Like, the person who filmed it, clipped it, and said, this is a good post, put it on social media as a positive. And we got all these other people who aren't there,
all these dietitians, right?
Seeing Deebo, who aren't watching him with their 2 eyes in 3D, talking about this is what he looks like. Let me tell you something. That man comes off the practice field not gassed, not winded, doing extra work after practice. That man, that man's out there after practice helping Mikey Sanders still get better, doing extra reps. There's nothing wrong with Deebo Samuel, and I've seen Deebo Samuel get targeted on several deep routes. Brock Purdy, that's not Brock's fault, but I've seen Deebo Samuel get targeted on several deep routes. So I'm telling you right now, when you see Deebo Samuel running the 9 and Jaden Daniels hitting him 40 yards down the field, don't be surprised because you heard about it right here.
One thing about Deebo Samuel, and this is when he was being evaluated, I was a huge fan. Deebo Samuel and Juwan Taylor went 1 pick apart. Jaguars got Juwan Taylor. So take that for what it's worth, right? When Deebo Samuel lit up the league, I called my friend who works for one of the major networks. And when he answered the phone, he goes, shut up. I told him, I said, I saw that dude in college. Yeah, it don't look like he's fast, but when the ball is in the air, he has an extra gear to go get it because of his competitiveness and his power. He has tree trunk legs. He dressed a little funny now. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'll be checking out him. He might be one of the NBA players with the weird clothes they wear coming into the game. But still, that's just me being an old man. Deebo Samuel gonna be fine, man. So there you go, Peter Bukowski.
And he's always been thick. Like Deebo's always.
First of all, he might take slight what you referring to him as thick. You can say
just as a receiver, like he doesn't have a receiver build. He's never had a receiver build. He's always had more of a running back build. So when he becomes a little bit bigger of a running back, then yeah, like people are like, oh man, this dude, but he's just back to his normal size, which is a little bit more stout, a little bit more thick for a wide receiver, sure. But he's always been that. That's why he's such a tackle breaking machine, all that stuff. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with Deebo Samuel.
I always thought he reminded me of Anquan Bolden. I said, you can sit there and talk about what he can't do. But guess what? What he can do is just flat out play football.
Hey, and if you're watching this and you got friends who don't watch this and they're just buying all the national media narratives and all this other stuff, let them continue and just don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. You know what? And then draft Deebo in the 8th round of your fantasy league and watch what happens.
Watch what happens. There you go. My boy, like I said, I'm going to start some trouble now, and my boy can handle it very well. I even asked a bogus question on behalf of my boy Peter, who ain't here to defend himself, and Dave took right on care of that. Y'all want to learn more about your rosters, man? Watch Locked On NFL Scouting. Kyle Krabs, Joe Marino, 2 of the absolute best in the business that I know. They work right here for our network, and they have a podcast where all they do is talk about players and rosters. Scouting, and you will love it and eat that stuff up because you got all summer to get ready for those 90-man rosters and those fantasy lineups that David just talked about. Make sure you check them out. Make them your second listen. Check David out at Locked On Commanders and me at Locked On Jaguars, and Tyler Rowland in the morning, the madman on Locked On NFL AM will get you right and wake you up like a double shot of espresso. Y'all, thank you for spending time with us today, somewhere around 28 and a half minutes. We appreciate you. We do not take you for granted. Glad you could join us here on Locked On NFL. Until next time, which will be tomorrow, we'll see you.